today. This is so exciting to have the opportunity for me to come today and introduce a wonderful entrepreneur and fellow diva in the marketplace, Angie Gossett. And you can listen to this podcast on divasthatcare.com, as well as iTunes and Spotify, Sketcher, and YouTube. So lots of places to go to access this information today. So I am a network marketing professional as well as Angie Gossett. And Angie, take a few minutes and tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and maybe just a little bit about your family so we can get to know who Angie is a little bit better.
Well, first off, thanks so much, Sally, for having me on today, and to the Divas That Care podcast. I love this podcast, and I'm just honored to be on today. And so, yes, I've been in the network marketing professional area for about 13 to 14 years. And I don't believe in coincidences, and I do believe in divine connections. But if I were to go back to those days when I first began, it really started with someone just offering me a product for half price. And it was a lady that went to my church. And of course, I said, yes, oh yeah, that's great. So I took that product, and so she, of course, followed up the next day and said, oh, I think you would be great at this, and the rest is kind of history. I had no intentions really of network marketing, direct sales. I've really never heard of the profession before. It has been such an incredible journey, just to the leadership, the personal growth, the personal development, and of course, it just did not happen overnight.
Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A couple of key words there that I picked up on. Half price. I bet there's a lot of divas that are listening right now, and half price does certainly get our attention. We love those bargains out there. And you also mentioned that the person followed up with you, and follow up in any business, but especially when you're working in a home-based business, following up with your customers and your potential clients is so important, because it's all about creating that relationship, and we always love it. It makes you feel good when someone cares to follow up. So I love that part of your story, how that started out. I also had noticed when you shared a little info prior to us coming live that you had said that you didn't have prior history in network marketing. And that's so true for so many people, because no one really grows up saying, oh, when I'm older, I want to be in network marketing. And that just, it's such a curious industry in that way. It's like we all stumble into it. And I really find that it tends to hit a lot of pleasure points for people as we're seeking more in our lives and as we grow businesses. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that you were attracted to this industry?
Well, for myself, I really have to say I believe it's a calling that God has on my life. There are many days I would say I would prefer something else, because the growth is an ebb and flow in it, and patience is a virtue in this business. You just about you cannot operate without it. And so I believe there is a calling for myself personally. I always come back to it. I think when God gives you an area where your gifts are strongest at, it's those things where you start seeing them show up in places where other people would say, I would never do that. I could never do that. And I think I could never really not do it. I've come back. I've been into three companies before. And so it's a process. Sometimes you just outgrow. My first company, I jumped in, loved the women, loved everything. But what I really fell in love with was leadership. And I started really just developing that, just again, not coincidentally. I think God just had me on a path that you can't see unless you're looking backwards at that. And so I just jumped into some leadership development things and started going to some conferences. And I just fell in love, and I outgrew. I think that's a great place to be. And that should happen, whether it's team members, whether it's teams, not necessarily always companies, depending on what company and what team. And so, I think that when you're winning, there's nothing wrong with winning. I think we don't talk about that enough. I think that is an energy that we should put out there to our teams that we're building, is that we expect to win. There's nothing wrong with making money. That's what we are, Divas Who Care, on this podcast, right? We're promoting something inside of network marketing where women are looking and searching for that. And so for myself, I love to say, yes, I want to be on a winning team, but that's kind of a clue there. It's like, if you're not on the right team, and sometimes you're just not, even the wins are not joyful. So when you have grown yourself to that place of recognizing what that team looks like and what it doesn't look like.
Wow. Angie, that was a lot packed in there. I got some goosebumps. There's some real golden nuggets. So those of you that are listening to this, you are going to want to go back and listen to that segment over and over again, because that was very, very powerful, Angie. And I think often as women, and we tend to want to please, and we stay, and we're super loyal typically. And we need to give ourselves permission to leave and grow sometimes in businesses. So that's a super powerful message. I love that you were able to bring that to this podcast today. You also talked about personal development and professional development. Talk about, because I know that you're in a community that offers some coaching and some classes. What are you currently doing to kind of hone your skills? Because the marketplace is continually changing. What do you do to keep up with all of that?
Well, Sally, and this is where I met you initially in this class that we're taking together. And so I think in order for you to bring your best self to the marketplace, then you have to level up and recognize when your leadership comes in again, and being able to say, I don't know this, but I'm willing to be coached. I'm willing to put myself out there. And it's always an uncomfortable place to be. But I found myself very often where the social media was concerned. We've certainly moved into that area where people are totally building 100% online now. While that seemed like a pipe dream to me, I really wanted to do it because whether I'm a people person and can go out and meet people, I also knew that I was going to be meeting people who preferred social media. There are people who would love to have that hour a day at nighttime to where they could build a business and get to a 6-figure and above income. And you need to be able to back up what you're talking about. And so that's where social media training came in, and I decided to hire a coach. I met Kibi Whitehead, which is an incredible coach in that area. I recommend her highly to everyone I talk with, because she wouldn't, while she may not coach me to do this over here, social media, she's an expert. She's a master at it. And so I have learned so much. I came into this class very hesitant, but also expecting to get something out of it. And I think you get what you expect. Right. And so I have grown leaps and bounds to where I'm not so anxious about putting things on. And not only that, I find myself daily plugging into other social media now experts, so to speak, of am I doing this right? How do I go forward? What does Facebook look like in the next year for people who are really wanting an income? Because there's a market. We're competing now in that space, maybe with YouTube, because Facebook has put the stories there. And that's what our story is. We're really telling our lives. This class that Kibi has called Story Sell, what I really like about this is that you really get in 20 seconds people's real stories, I think. More so than you do on Facebook, where they're trying, instead of scrolling down and regurgitating some material, and I've done the same thing myself, not really knowing what to post. In stories, you find yourself telling the story of your life and telling the story of your business and what your vision is and those things. And so it's incredible, but if you don't know how to do it, it's very intimidating.
That's very, very true. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this can relate to that, because it can be intimidating. But I think that's what relationship marketing is all about. It's the relationship, and over the years, sometimes that got diluted. So I love that we're putting people first, And the training that you mentioned is through Coach Kibi Whitehead, and it's a fabulous stories sell class. And when you know how to do social media right, it just makes all the difference. And it's okay if we've messed it up in the past. You only know what you know at that certain time. And a person and a lifelong learner, boy, do we have some wonderful coaching that we can connect you with. Now, I know it's important to you, as it is for me, to really exude kindness and love in the marketplace. And we're a part of another class or community called Rock Success Through Scripture, which is just so exciting because good people do good things on social media. Sometimes people get really frustrated with social media because they feel there's a lot of negativity out there. I think it's completely the opposite. I feel you feel the same as well, Angie. Why don't you talk a little bit about our Success Through Scripture community? Because I'm sure those who are listening to Divas That Care would be very interested in that.
Yes, I love this community, and what this is success through scripture. That's what we're speaking of, right? And we're doing a book. We read a book and we go over that. We're on a panel, so I'm one of the panelists, and so much nuggets that's brought out from each person that's on the panel on Sunday mornings is when we do those. And I think about where God has brought me. Maybe from over just the last decade, and some of the things, this is my own personal thing of how to build a business through scripture. And that is where God, for myself, I kind of think of a balloon, maybe a helium balloon, where you're putting it on the machine and it's being filled every single day. And what happens when I spend that time with God in the mornings, that's early time for me. It's Bible time, it's scripture, it's prayer, it's all that. It's like a balloon that's been inflated with helium, and you can rise above everything. Your business will rise when you have filled it with the proper tools, so to speak, when you have got the very breath of God, a supernatural ability to go out and build and speak into women's lives and believe what you're actually saying, because it's coming from the very source himself. That's the only way the marketplace is going to be effective with Christian women who are bringing something that's different. It's like Daniel, we've differentiated ourselves. We've set ourselves apart, and not different, but in the fact that we believe. The other thing is that helium will deflate in that balloon throughout the course of the day, right? And so you find yourself where there's your energy, there's your skills, even there's your passion, your vision, those kind of things. Is the rhythm again, instead of a balanced life. Sometimes I think God has us in a rhythm, and to me, I look at that as that feeling that spirit in the mornings with Him, ready to rise above those things, the negativities, those things in our businesses, and bringing that into a marketplace is I have such a passion for that, to speak those beliefs into other women, to show them there is those gifts that a gift is from God, that He's given us to give to other people. And so that is a passion. As you see, I get really excited about that. The success through scripture has been God sent for me. I love that community. So if our listeners are looking for something to kind of maybe in addition to what they're doing, or to do something online where they're not able really to do maybe at church that morning or whatever, jump on board with us with that, because it's an amazing group.
Absolutely. You described it really well, and I love the visual of the helium balloon, and that really resonates with me, as I'm sure it does with a lot of listeners. And once again, you can hear this podcast on Spotify and iTunes, Sketcher, YouTube, Changemaker Cafe on Facebook, and obviously divasthatcare.com, and reach out to us and we can connect you to some of these communities that we've talked about. So I feel very, very fortunate to have you in my life, Angie, as a new friend. Now, and I know that you have been married to your husband, Lee, for 36 years. Tell us a little bit about him and your family. Tell us something maybe a little personal about yourself.
Sure, sure. Yes, fell in love years ago with Lee. He's an amazing guy. He's the guy that supports me in whatever I do. Whether he understood network marketing when I first came in, which he didn't, but what he understood was why I was doing it. Because my why for doing network marketing was to be home with my children. So I have 2 children. That time flew by, so they're now adult children, and I have 4 grandchildren. And they love the Lord. They serve in our church and just in different ministry capacities and different leadership. So I think that for myself, it's worth everything that I ever, giving up maybe a college dropout, because I dropped out of college and I was going to go back, and I never did that because network marketing came along, and I just saw a way that I could provide, not just for myself, for that being surrounded with other women, but for my family and for my children. And I contribute, honestly, today, their leadership skills. My son is an excellent leader in the church, just different ministry positions. I contribute a lot of that to what they learned from what I did at home when they were growing up. Just seeing those vision boards and those goal posters and meeting a goal, not meeting a goal, those kind of things. So it's just an incredible journey.
Wow, that sounds like a very beautiful family living and walking in their faith. I just love that. And I know that you are leading women to see their God-given potential, and that you just exude that. So those that are listening to this Divas That Care podcast, I know that this message will land on them. And like you said, there are no coincidences. So I know that you're here to share your message with people that are just ready to receive that. So thank you, Angie, for your time, spending time with us today. Thank you